I'll take the authority to introduce myself. So I'm Ken Cadayona. I am a Presbyterian from Cruciform Life Church. I am currently studying Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science. I'm currently in my second year. Right now, the reason why I have the ability to do this is because meron kaming academic break. And, you know, I just saw that it's a great opportunity for me to, of course, share the knowledge that I have, which I have a lot right now. Like if you can see this, that's a lot. I'm gonna say a lot of information tonight. I hope all of you would learn. And yeah, I'm gonna just introduce my page, Archon. Archon is a UK and Philippine based organization company. It's more like an America First, comparatively with America First by Nick Fuentes in United States. Here, I've seen that there's no conservative group in the Philippines that acts in that type of manner. So I was like, oh, maybe this is a good chance for me to, of course, make my own page and share my own thoughts and share my own knowledge about certain things, which I would, of course, do a brief, not really a brief summary, but more like a somewhat brief, somewhat detailed summary of all the things that I will teach tonight. So yeah, um, I would go on now for my to my speech. Not really a speech, but more like a forum. I would love to introduce what would I do, anong gagawin ko dito in this particular topic that was given to me, and how I plan to do it. First, I plan to do it historically and philosophically. So we're gonna look at that. I look at things more historically, more philosophically, but of course with biblical foundations, alliance with biblical foundations. You cannot really take away the Bible from almost all of the things that you do, especially as a Christian. That's why people, when you talk to people, they would tell you that, sabihin nila, why do you always bring up God? Why do you always talk about Jesus? Why do you always do this? Because that's my identity. That's who I am. I am a sinner, saved by the grace of Christ, and I have no capability to do any good of my own, but apart from God, but only through God, through the imitation of God's character, I am able to do good things for others as well. So here tonight, we're gonna look at it more historically, of course. I'm gonna explain this to you first. Yeah, you can roll na yung aking PowerPoint, bro. All right, there we go. So before that, sige, bro. Next mo, bro. Okay. Sige, before we talk about what is politics and its significance, we're gonna talk first about yung sinabi ko kanina about historical outlining nitong aking forum, right? When I say historical, this is very important. History is very important. I think that a lot of people overlook history when it comes to modern academe studies, and there's a lot of consequences for that. The reason why there's a lot of confusion. I would not even say confusion. It's more like a lot of issues, in the modern political sphere of the Philippines, is because we have not looked towards into, we have not looked into the historical aspect of things. So yeah, I'm gonna make it detailed for you. I'm gonna make it so simple. Sabihin ko lang na there's two ways how we view history. The trads, the traditionals, and the liberals and the seculars. Okay, so the seculars, they view history as if it's linear. All right. So it means when I mean linear, it starts from being bad before to being better now. It's like progressive. The word progressive comes from that, right? Being being progressive towards time, that everything gets better. For example, in the topic of feminism, they believe that women were abused and all. And women are just looked as second-class citizens before, and now it's all getting better because apparently we are allowing our women to sell their bodies online for the price of a hamburger. So that's how liberals view history. And if you have any understanding about history, you would figure out that history wasn't like that. It wasn't really. It wasn't even close. History is more likely cyclical. What do I mean by cyclical? It's history repeats itself, right? It's more like a wavelength than it's a linear, progressive pattern. So What I mean by cyclical is because there are certain things in history that repeats itself in the modern age. History repeats itself, and certain factors of it. I have a theory on it. I think I call it cycle theory. It repeats itself until there's a certain factor that was removed from a particular event that will not make it or not make it to have a similar cause or have a similar effect on societal foundations. Now, as I have made that clear, you have to understand and you have to observe how things work when it comes to talking to liberals and seculars, because their perception of history literally changed everything, or our perception of history, in fact, because we view that history is cyclical. We have a great understanding that what happened before could happen in the future again if certain things are not stopped. I will explain some of these events later, which we would discuss over, and we would really have a fun time together with this. But now, let's begin where we should begin first, which is what is politics and its significance. So, politics is basically simply coined as a term of control and power, like authority. That's what it means. Okay, you don't have to have a long dictionary explanation of what politics is. If I have to teach you about politics, I would just tell you the politics is about control and power. It controls about money, entertainment, industry, schools, and more all of other institutions. How do you control politics? You need three things: money, power, and fame, right? You need those three things in order for you to control politics very much efficiently. That's why a lot of people, especially from celebrity backgrounds, they run in politics because they already have a huge garnering of followers that would vote for them, certainly. And money as well is very important in politics. If you have read the book of Sir George Goodman about how central banking controlled the modern world, is that particular book talks about how money shapes the world and certain things, especially how it shaped entertainment, how it shaped the political industry, and everything, and about policy making and all things. Right. I will look into detail on that later, but for now, I will explain what is the significance of learning politics as a Christian. A lot of people would love to say na parang politics is separated from theology. Politics is separated from the church. You should not do church. You should not do politics inside the church. However, I have a great disagreement with that. I do not. I think that as a Christian, politics is really important because you live in a political society. Seriously, everything is a political. Literally, when I say everything is political, it's not an understatement or overstatement. It's more like it's the reality of things. Uh, Entertainment is political. If you have watched yung bagong ano ni Marian Rivera, yung Balota, theater kids control the government, and people na maarte, they would shout, they would cry, they would do all things
Hindi,
just to
hindi pa kasi
consent.
may ginagawa pa ako dad.
Hello, sino yun? Who's that?
Oo. After
Hello,
matapos na yun.
hello, Joseph. Can you mute your mic, bro? Sige. Thank you lang. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, going back to my point, politics is really important as learning as a Christian because it makes you equipped into facing certain issues in the modern age. You live in a state. Neither ways you don't want to accept the fact you live in a state and you have to really learn politics. So politics, as I've said, is about control and power. If you do not understand how control and power works, you are never going to get anywhere. I mean, that to say it more kindly, it's like if you do not understand that politics is about the control of people, more likely you will become a sheep. You will become a blind follower of of others. You will become a blind follower of people who speaks a lot of you know speaks a lot of gibberish and garbage, and you would likely believe them because you don't have any idea about things that they're talking about. Um, yeah, it's significant that politics is so detrimental, but moreover that we have to understand that politics doesn't come from the state; it comes from the church. The church already had its own polity. It's expressed in the letters of Paul. All throughout the epistles of Paul, he talks about how the church should be functioned. That's literally what it means to be polity, to control, to have a function, to have
Po,
an order.
andito ako sa kwarto ko.
to have an order. Who is that? All right, moving on. Sige.
Kakain ma, sandali ma. Pagbibihis naman ako.
All right. Sige. All right. Sige. Sige lang, bro. It's fine. It's okay. It's all good. You know. So next, please. As I've already explained the significance of politics, let's go with the. I'm going to share you first I'm going to share you first a quote. Na I want you to think about this throughout the entire night, throughout the entire evening. So I want you to think about this particular quote, and then let's have a conversation about it later. Okay, so please, can you next, na bro, yung aking slide. Okay. Yan. So this is from Archbishop Charles J. Chaput, a French archbishop, a French Catholic archbishop. Now, I know you're looking at me, but why would you go to Catholic in a in a particular forum that talks about Protestantism? Well, I'm going to say why later, because this is the when you never mind who said the quote, you could literally see the truth in it. You know, neither ways. If it's said by if it's said by an Orthodox or an Catholic or a Protestant, the quote is very true in its own essence. Let's look at it. Sabi dito, evil preaches tolerance until it is dominant, then it tries to silence good. Right? That is very much true for postmodernistic policies and postmodernistic ideologies at this current time. You just have to live and let live, do whatever you want, do as you please. It's more like as if Satan is talking to you in flesh, in human flesh, and saying you that, hey, let people do what they want, let people do what they please, just let them do it, because again, it's not of your business to mind these people. That's the current understanding on these issues. And because their virtue is primarily tolerant. Again, as I've said earlier, yung tingin nila sa history, right, is linear, it's progressive. So of course, comes with that the ethics that comes with the view of progressive linear history comes with tolerance. Okay, because you have to tolerate things in order for progress, right? For example, how would you figure out that there would be a deadly how would you cure a deadly disease, right? You would have to, of course, try it and test it on animals, and there's an ethics on tolerance on towards those things that, oh, it's fine, it's doing this, it's like it's okay, right? For example, LGBT na lang, I'll make it much more direct. It's LGBT, right? How would we know certain sexual norms and cultures, like for example orgies and swinging? How would we know that if we do not know about the sexual? If we do not permit it to happen, if we have obscenity laws, and I'm going to talk about that later. Obscenity laws that the Supreme Court in America has allowed in the 1970s. If we have allowed those particular things, there will be progress, because there will be no progress at all if you do not, allow tolerance. But tolerance, as we know, is not a virtue, right? Tolerance was never a virtue at all. Tolerance is a false piety or a false virtue of apathy to tell people it's okay what they're doing, even though it's not, right? So moving on with that. Next slide. Okay. So why is theology interconnected with politics? So yeah, as I've said earlier, everything is political. Everything is connected with politics, even in the church. Or like in the Christian sphere, everything is literally political. May nakakita ba sa inyo na nag-tweet si Dane Ortland about promoting Kamala Harris for this November 5? If you have seen that, raise your hand. Because that is literally very significant on what I will say later, right? Sinabi niya yun, right? So Dane Ortland promoted Kamala Harris. That is insane. That is a pastor, which I have read. Actually, I just read his book like a couple of months ago, yung about sa pornography. I think is it Dane? Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. So, but a very influential pastor from the Ortland family tweeted that it's never Trump. It's never Trump, and that's what happens when Christians have no understanding when it comes to politics. They just see that, oh, Trump is bad as is like he's evil. Sorry, as bad as because he's evil and he's a mean guy. So gotta boot him out. That's not the that's not what reality truly is, and that's not what the political agenda of the things really means. So yeah, let me connect this with what I'm saying. So again, theology, sabi nga ni Saint Aquinas, that is the mother of all sciences. Of course, theology is connected with everything. God controls everything. Therefore, theology, the study of God, is connected with almost everything. So what do I mean by theology is connected by everything? Theology is literally connected by everything because theology, your understanding of God or your belief or lack of belief of God, changes the way how you perceive things. Like for example, have you observed why majority of atheists are also fornicators, gays, and sexually immorals? I'm not saying that all of them are, but I'm saying the majority of them are. If pumunta ka sa page ng Philippine atheists, they allow what? Abortion. They allow divorce. They allow same-sex marriage. Huh? You see that? Yeah, that's literally why is it, because their lack of understanding or lack of belief of God. Maybe just they hate God so much that everything that God puts in order is that they want to destroy it functionally. So, yeah, theology is connected with academia, medicine, science, and philosophy. Right? Let's go with the understanding of medicine. Right? Atheists would say that because of the invention of medicine, we don't have to rely on faith-based miracles. Or like, let's say na parang, oh, of course there's no through healing. The Bible is false because again, maybe they just had this thinking in their brain that they finally healed themselves for some odd reason, right? But the reality is, wasn't like that. Majority of modern science stemmed from Western theological priests and monks that learned about how God, formed the universe. For example, the P. George, I think it's Mendel, right? Or I know the one that talks about the genealogy of peace. If I'm mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong with the person. It's a monk, right? Who created the most modern science stemmed from, of course, the Catholic Church. I'm not going to deny that. It stemmed from because the East is more mystical and the West is more intellectual, right? The West is more intellectual. That's the reason why the West published a lot of intellectual stuff, especially us Protestants, and when it comes to the works of John Knox, John Calvin, and Luther. So, yeah, moving on with that. Yeah, why is theology inseparable from politics? It is inseparable from politics because, again, theology shapes the way how we think, shapes the way what we perceive about things, right? Again, a lot of postmodern political ideology and philosophies stemmed from one particular thing. It stemmed from um, the lack of belief in God and materialism. All right, it's about materialism. Everything is material. Your brain is just made from a genetic DNA fizz bangs, like boom, 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 like that. That's what they perceived about what they think about human as an entirety. That's why materialism is so prone when it comes to hedonism, right? So when it comes to hedonism, they want to, you only have one life, so live it as much as you want and do whatever you want. If you want to have um, if you want to have sexual intercourse with someone without being married, it's fine because again, you only have one life, and this life is like, it's about being happy. Achieve total happiness for individual's sake. It's very individualistic. Again, it focus only on the individual and not how the individual should submit to a higher abysmal authority, a divine immaterial being that is more than the material things of this world. They don't view it like that. Now, why is politics avoided in churches by in most conversations by churches? Why is it avoided in most churches in a conversation? So the reason is simple: false piety, right? So ang simple lang naman nun because false piety basically says na parang like you don't have to, don't have to interfere. Someone even saying na parang Romans 1:13, you just have to submit, man. You just have to submit. But John Knox didn't say that. John Knox, the reformer, a famous reformer, disagreed with that. Sabi niya dito, sa quote niya, true it is, God has commanded kings to be obeyed. But likewise, true it is that in things where they commit against his glory, he has commanded no obedience. Right? True it is that a wife must submit to her husband. However, when the husband do things that are against God's will, God's instruction, there is no requirement for such obedience. Right? Like, would you want to be ruled by a tyrant? Peter Lightheart said something about this, that my political views are inseparable from my theological convictions. I oppose tyrants because I want to do whatever, not because I want to do whatever I like, but because tyrants disobey God or defy God. They want to play God. Humans have this from the beginning of time, since we were created. We always want to play God. That's the reason why we disobey God. We really want to have the power of God. And even in the modern sphere, we really still want to play God. We want to change our genders. We want to kill our babies so that we can, just live a life full of materialistic things. We want to do a lot of things. We want to change our appearance by literally, have you ever seen transracial person, like a white person turn into a Korean person? Like, that's insane, right? That is batshit insane. Sorry for the cursing, but batshit is like, I don't know. But yeah, that is insanity, right? This is total insanity because we always, from the beginning of time, we always want to play God. We have seen it all throughout the Bible that man always wanted to play God. And that's why civil authority is limited, but only God has absolute authority. It's not that man should have the absolute authority, but God alone. Okay? Why is it that God alone should have the absolute authority? Because he's good and he's everything that man could never be. Okay, that's just the simple explanation for that reason. So it's avoided in most conversation because majority of Christians are just have this idea of like not interfering with politics, and that's why I'm going to show you mamaya yung mangyayaring election this November 5 sa United States, and ano yung ginagawa ng Christian response, ano yung ginagawa ng mga Christians there. They're not voting, and that's a bad thing. Okay, so mamaya I'm gonna cover that. Don't worry, I will feed you baby birds. Not kidding. All right. So again, here, why men must stand ungovernable under a satanic government, because it defies God, right? And the historical, with not and the historical background of this goes beyond way back before time. Men are just instinctively ungovernable but religious. We want to have a shared identity, a shared community. However, we do not want we do not want a certain particular group to be in absolute control of over everything. And if you have any understanding about history, that's how they literally do it. They hate people who are, absolutely controlling. And some people would follow, but there are some that would lie out. Like, for example, out of 1 in a million people would defy a tyrant, but majority would follow because there's this thing called collectivism, the collective mind of people, right? You believe in certain things, you dwell in your echo chambers and your cesspools, and they do not view things. That's why when you talk to an atheist, especially if it's a woman, they're gonna cry to you. I'm serious with this. It's not a joke, right? If you talk to a woman who wanted to become a man, she's gonna cry to you. She's gonna say, "Well, you don't care because you have never suffered what I suffered." Yeah, exactly. We know it. So now let's go to the next slide, shall we? Yeah, that's a historical background, brother. Right, let's go with the historical background. I'm going to, yeah, take it, bro. Next, please. Hello, hello, hello. Sino yung nagko-control ng ano? Bro, paki-next na. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, maybe delayed ako. Okay, sige ito. Historical background, right? We're gonna go now to the historical background of conservatism. Okay, we're gonna talk about conservatism right now. So The term conservative was introduced in after 1815 by supporters of the newly restored Bourbon monarchy in France, including the author and diplomat Francois Auguste Rene uh, and Vicotny de Chateaubriand. All right, I don't know if I pronounced their names correctly. Sorry, French, your names are so hard to pronounce. I may have butchered your names, but yeah, that's it. So, in short, uh, conservatism is made as a response to liberalism. That's why the conservative sphere was created. But traditionalism go way beyond that. Okay, because traditionalism was already a thing, a philosophy that's been instilled in people for way beyond conservatism. Conservatism is like conserving things. From the word conserve, you can want to conserve it. Right? Silent E. All right. Okay, I'll take note of that. Federalist Party chairman. All right. Sure. I'll take note of that. But yeah, sorry, French people. Your name are just so hard to pronounce. So yeah, let's go. Let's go over. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, that's how the conservative the term conservatism was created. It's a response to liberalism, a response to the French Revolution against the monarchs and against anything that is traditional. So yeah, and it was instilled at that time as a as a new philosophy that will combat the Enlightenment times of the modern of that age. So uh, what is the historical background naman on liberalism? Historical background on liberalism could be traced back to like at least a few philosophers that we probably know and we have already studied in high school. Like, for example, si Locke, si Rousseau, si Montesquieu. Yeah, those are probably philosophers that talks about liberalism. But what is liberalism literally? Liberalism means it basically the importance of individual above all things. And you can say, oh, that's individualism. Wait, hold on. Liberalism holds that importance as well. That is individualism. In fact, individualism is about holding an importance of individual, but liberalism is like that individual is so important that he literally has all the liberty to do whatever he pleases. That's it. You could have like so many detailed how do so much detailed stuff like definitions of liberalism, but the reality of liberalism is it like it's just like that. You don't have to make it more difficult for yourself. But if you do want to study on it, I don't have enough time to cover all of it. It's just that I have to do it in a short manner and what it is simply explained. So yeah, is Protestantism again, liberalism. What is it like? A lot of Catholics would blame Protestantism for the cause of liberalism. Is it true though? Like, is it true that Protestantism is the cause of liberalism? The answer is simply no. Okay, actually, it's more likely the opposite. If you want to read Alberto Rivera, a former Jesuit priest, he said something about the power vacuum in Vatican that as it is still today, that it controls certain things, and what's happening in a wide array of issues. The Catholics, the Vatican's, sorry, the priests have this control and power, right? So it's more likely the opposite, right? Though beware, because it's met with a lot of criticism. And but the answer to the question that if Protestantism may be the cause of liberalism, no, it wasn't. Hindi siya yung cause nun. Right? Actually, Protestants are against liberalism, right? For example, Luther. Luther was against John Knox, and Luther was against these ideas, right? He even had this because the Jews at that time, they were the one who's promoting these things. I'm going to talk about that later. Okay, we're going to talk about the Jews. So we're going to go full. Not kidding. I'm going to talk about the Jews. All right. So yeah, he has this take on it, and the Jews and their lies in 1543, right? About how the Jews function things. We're gonna talk about usury, blood libel. We're gonna talk about those things later. So yeah, reformers were very much likely against liberalism. We submit to God. Again, it's very antithetical to say that that it's very antithetical of the Reformation to be pro liberalism. because if we are pro-liberalism, we would have hated the order and the creation of God. We would have hated the tradition, not tradition of man, but traditions of God. For example, if there's one thing that never changed throughout the history of Protestantism, is that our belief that it must be Bible superiority over the church. That is literally like a tradition. That is a traditional belief, and it stemmed from 1600s, 1500s at the time of Luther. Up until today, it's still adapted by modern Protestants. We are very much likely against these things because again, they defy God. Okay, they play God, and us Christians, we do not want to play God. Why would we want to play God if we know that the consequences of playing God are very immense, and it's very detrimental for our own good. So yeah, you know, again, here sinabi ko dito, the moral majority, right? Yeah, Protestants have an impact. Wait lang bro, balik ka muna dun. Protestants have an impact on conservative politics in the United States during the 1970s sexual revolution. So parang naulit yung conservatism no 1815, right? Naulit siya again. So again, cyclical, right? Naulit siya again in response to what? In response to 1970s sexual revolution. So yung conservatism na ginawa noong 1815, that is against French Revolution, kasi yung French Revolution was highly influenced. It's so messy. It's highly influenced by a lot of liberal thinkers, right? That's why they're against the monarchy. They're against the idea of the divine right of kings, right? So ito namang 1970 sexual revolution. It's against the order of God that God that people must submit to God and not just sell themselves like fleshlights for everyone. But again, the Protestants have an impact on this, and they said something. They said a lot of things about this in the 1970s. One of the most famous organizations and movements that was made in the 1970s was made by Jeffrey Falwell, right? It's the moral majority, right? And it's having conservative politics in the United States, in sexual and during that time. Sorry, bro, na-distract ako. I was someone messaged me because my lola was actually on ano ngayon. Pero yeah, it's fine. All right, let's continue. So what happened ba? Ano ba nangyari dun sa 1970s sexual revolution movement? Basically summed up: pornography, non-marital sex, cohabitation, birth control, reproductive rights, everything that is very unbiblical and all of its nature is happened in 1970s. Ano ba nangyari? Why is it like that? Where did it stem from? It stemmed from it followed after the women's liberation movement in 1960s. Okay, after 1960s women's sexual revolution movement, the women liberation movement, 1969 Seneca Falls, New York. Linda Gordon, said explicitly in his quote that we want to destroy the nuclear family. That's the reason for the creation of feminism, right? But women wouldn't believe that because again, if it's if it's something that convicts them to be accountable for something, people hate accountability. By the way, that's one thing that I overlooked. Pala, nakalimutan ko sabihin is that liberals do not like accountability. All right. Sige lang. Ayun lang po. All right. So going back to my point, yeah. So yeah, liberals hate accountability. They don't want to be accountable for something. They don't want to be controlled. They want to do whatever they please. They don't want to be subject under a certain authority, especially God. They hate God. That's why they hate God again. That's why they hate order. They hate tradition. They want to be contrarian to almost everything. Yeah, they want to be contrarian to almost everything. Yeah, and 1970s was famous for its hippie culture. Yes, are you familiar with hippie culture? Yung mga people, yung style nila at that time was hippie culture because against from the designated dressing style before. So they did it in hippie culture. So and yung mga contradictions against traditionalism. They don't want to be traditional anymore. They want to be somewhat different. They want to be free. They want to have liberty. That's what they want. Now, here, nangyari din dun yung 1969 Stonewall riots. So what is the Stonewall riots in 1969? Right? Yan ta. Sige bro, next mo na yung para masundan nila. Right? Yung mostly kasi nang ginawa ko sa aking PowerPoint will not be seen on the PowerPoint itself pero on my paper, right? I did more research on the paper because I wanted more cohesive. I don't have a script. It's just like an outline because I think it's much more. I'm more able to be more coherent and be more understanding. I mean, be more understandable for people if I speak freely. If mag-a-adlib na lang ako rather than just do it by script. Because again, I want to be I'm also a liberal. I want to be free. No, I'm kidding. I want to have the liberty to speak. Okay. Let's go on. So 1969 Stonewall riots. What is the 1969 Stonewall riots? This was a march and a riot by gays so that they would be given the it's like a slippery slope. It started from we just wanted to get married to we wanted to touch kids. How funny is that? But that happened in 1969 Soul Rights. It's the beginning of the tolerance towards the LGBT community, and that's where it all started, right? And I will point out a couple of people. Sino yung mga nag-fund nito? Sino yung mga nagsabi nito? For example, kanina si Linda Gordon. Linda Gordon was a Jewish person, right? Um, si I forgot the other one again, pero here Supreme Court obscenity laws, yung kay Miller in California, nagkaroon ng case about kay Miller in California. Ano yung meron doon? Nagkaroon na-invento yung Miller test. Miller test is a test that is used for gaano ka-perversive yung isang entertainment. For example, does it, parang may tatlong standards doon. If you wanna look over it, just look it up online. I will not go into detail, but one of it is like tatanungin nila yung tao, like, do you find this perversive? Pag yung tao na yun, of course, if you ask people, it's subjective. If the person says that they find it okay, meh, it will pass. It will pass. Yun yung ginamit nilang test. So nanalo si Miller versus the state of California. So from that day on, yung Supreme Court nagkaroon ng nag-relax sila sa obscenity laws, right? And ano nangyari after that? Na-invento yung mga pornographic movies. So kagaya nung Deep Throat, I'm sorry for saying this, but that's what the name is. Search na lang. So Deep Throat. So Deep Throat is a movie that it wants to combat the traditional norms of sexual purity. Insane, right? Why would you do that? Yeah, never mind. So those are the type of movies that were created in the 1970s, 1980s time. So ayun yun, to combat the sexual purity movement, because people in America were like us as well. They were Christian. They were Christians, like us. So we have this norm in our culture na parang no sex before marriage, because that's the Catholic catechism, and also in the Protestant catechism that was also the same, because again it's unbiblical for you to fornicate. But here's what happened. People wanted to play God again, so they don't want to submit to the authority of God. So of course they will play it on their hands. They will play it on the hands of man to control the power. So they control the power by basically using state laws, because again the church cannot say anything about it unless influence the people. All right, I'm going to talk about influence later. It will be very important. Everyone, you have to understand this. As a man, if you're a man here, you have to understand how to be influential and articulate and be dangerous. Not be dangerous in physical prowess, but be dangerous in your intellect, because it will literally impact a lot of people in your life. We're going to talk about that later, but let's continue moving on. So, may naging research din dyan. 1934, si J.D. Unwin. I love this guy. I recommend you this book. Nabasa ko na to, 700 pages. If you have the time to read 700 pages of research,
Wow.
right? You might as well kill kill the soul that you have in your body, because you just have to study it so deeply. Again, and I heat up ng English because the English was so old. J.D. Unwin, but it's still so relevant. The book and the study is still so relevant. Let's go over with that. So J.D. Unwin's book, Sex and Culture. I recommend this to everyone almost I met, and all the people that I before I evangelized when I was 15 or 16 years old. Lagi ko tong sinasabi because this is so influential. This is a study made by J.D. Unwin amongst different societies all throughout the period of time of human history, right? So, ginawa niya dito, nagkaroon siya ng study on different societal histories, right? And yung isang thesis niya dito is that people must control themselves when it comes to sexual pleasure and sexual functions, right? Nakita niya na yung mga societies that are polygamous, that are sexually immoral or like more likely free and sexually free, caused its own extinction, right? So and also kinumpare niya rin yun sa mga Muslim countries, for example sa Iran that time yung mga polygamy and tribal groups in Africa. The reason why these countries cannot progress into such a higher intellectual standard is because of their sexual normative culture. And if it's a and this is so amazing because J.D. Unwin warned the West that if they follow this certain standard, they're going to die. I mean, by die, their societal death, right? And that's what's literally happening right now. That in our current age of time, because we do not want to follow the word of God and we do not want to submit to God, we think that science is apart from God. Hindi naman yan, Bible na nagsasabi niyan eh. They would say like the Bible na naman nagsasabi niyan eh. Nobody like you can do it and nothing would affect you. Guess what? Science says so. And hindi lang ito, right? Not only J.D. Unwin, but Wolfinger study conducted in 2019 to 2022. This is an amazing study that talks about emotional and sexual baggage before you marry. It says there, very simple lang ang thesis niya, sabi niya that when you have so much emotional backlog from other people, you will have a harder time marrying. Guess what? Who said that? As if Bible said it before, right? Like parang it's just inuulit lang. Science just figure out the truth as already in the Bible. The Bible says Bible says it's true because it's true, right? Not because it's just because of belief. Sorry, I'm being redundant of the because. Forgive me for that. Not just because of just blind faith, but more like that it is in fact objectively true that women and men who have multiple body counts have a harder time adjusting into marriage. Wow, that's new to me. No, it's not really new. The Bible tells you not to fornicate, so don't do it. So J.D. Unwin made that great research book. I would recommend it to you later if I have the chance to do so. Meron ako nun sa aking EPUB. And you can download it for free online, by the way. So, yeah, let's talk about naman yung stems ng sexual revolution. Ano ba yung stem ng feminism? Where did feminism came from? Feminism came from, again, going back to 1800s, nung time ng French Revolution, right? Against the monarchs. And yeah, this idea. Hello.
I'm sorry, sir. You're muted. Yeah. Sir Ken. Sir Ken, you're muted. You're muted po. Yeah.
No. Okay. Sorry. Ano yung last time na narinig nyo?
De,
Sorry, Emma.
2 sentence lang po yung yung na-mute ka.
So nabanggit ko ba yung sa times of sexual revolution, yung
Yes,
feminism?
Yes,
Yung
Yes.
all right. Yun so it stemmed from again, hindi mo people this is an unknown historical fact, but feminism never started in 1848. They never started on a meeting that was done by a couple of women in an apartment in New York. It didn't start from that. It started from way beyond, sexual French Revolution. Not 1800s, 16. Sorry, I was confusing the time. But yeah, during that time, it started from there. Okay, it started from the French Revolution, and then it followed up in Americas on an apartment, and then it stemmed on kasi yung American democracy is basically sharing their own ideologies. So hello, pamute po. Kanan PH, bro, I would love to request you to mute. Thank you. So, ayun, where did I cut off na? Wala yung rhythm ko. So yeah, going back. Yun nga, itong feminism basically explained that it's usurpation of power of men. You want to usurp the authority of men. And that's what Linda Gordon said. And his famous quote. and that's what majority of, like, for example, Herbert Marcuse, for example, ito yung founders ng mga modern liberal universities, which we're going to talk about later, bakit majority ng universities are so liberal and so woke and leftist, right? Herbert Marcuse is a socialist, right? So he said that this is a good thing, this is a good thing, usurpation of power of men, because women have been oppressed way beyond in time. But in reality, it wasn't like that. They and feminists would say na parang women are not allowed to vote. Well, guess what? Men are also not allowed to vote. There's such a strict qualification for men to be able to vote, right? Some of them even have to have family. Some of them need to have a property. If you don't have a property and you're a man, you're not allowed to vote. Is that fair to you? No, that's not fair because I'm a man, right? So again, the reality when it comes to understanding of voting, and especially its historical background, is so bonkers, messed up, because they thought that the reason why women are not allowed to vote is because they're women, not because women at that time don't have properties, they don't have, especially matriarchs at that time. I believe there's a particular matriarch I've researched that she is allowed to vote because her husband died, and she is the owner of the farm now. And 1910s, and even there's a study in 1910s, right? But about interviews about women if they really wanted to vote. They said no. Bakit? The reason why they said no is because they're not in the workforce yet that time. So they were not in the workforce yet that time, and men are dying from a lot of disease that comes from their work. For example, yung metal, ano ba yun? I think it's very harmful for them. Yung nagme-melt sila ng metal and then you smoke nun because they don't have proper PPEs at that time. Yung smoke nila, nai-inhale nila na smoke, cause them major health complications. At that time, women said that, if you are allowed to vote, you must work, right? So yun yung qualification on. And women, mostly at that time, since they're a lot of them are housewives, they said no. We actually would love to give the authority to our husbands to vote, for they work hard for that to earn that voting right. It wasn't like an instilled right, but more like it's a qualification. And then nangyari na liberalize yung voting so that everybody can vote. So congratulations, you got a psyop democracy. So democracy is basically a psyop, by the way. Rich people telling you what to vote and how to vote. Like what to do and like that. So yun. Oh, sorry, may mga tao nag-message about my lole. So yeah, going back to my point, I'm lost. So yeah, yung mga ganong issues, mga understanding about voting, lack of understanding about history are, practically a lost cause for a lot of people. They never really want to dig deep down to understand what happened here, what happened there. They just wanted to make the inconclusive conclusion that it's because of this oppressive power and this oppressed, so that's why it happened. That's basically what they think about it. But now, you want to know bakit naging ganun yung utak ng tao? Why is it that they think like that? Why is it that their minds are formulated to think that there is an oppressor and there is an oppressed? I'm going to explain to you later when we talk about the Frankfurt School. Saan na tayo sa page? Next, bro. Next. Okay. So, talk rin about the history ng abortion, history of divorce, particularly no-fault divorce. Okay? Ito, pinasa to ni Ronald Reagan. Again, in the 1900s, pinasa niya to. Nung 1980 something around that time. Napasa yung no-fault divorce because divorce at that time is not allowed until for major, especially the Orthodox Church. But when I mean Orthodox, like hindi yung Orthodox Church, but like the Orthodox, I mean proper understanding of the proper teaching in church. They do not allow divorce at all. If there's an allowance for divorce, it's because it's very, very, very serious. For example, it could endanger the life of the mother and the kid. It could be neglect, it could be abuse, it could be adultery wasn't even there. But some even allowed adultery. Kasi in the Orthodox Church, in the overall church, when somebody committed adultery, they wanted to be reconciled. Gusto nila ma-reconcile yung mother and father because they know the effect of divorce on children, right? Pitirim Sorokin, okay? Si Pitirim Sorokin, another book. Basahin niyo to. Sociology of Marriage and Family. So he made a book on it's more like a study book, you know. Like he made a study then on sociology in marriage and family. He figured out on 1910s that there's a 10% divorce rate. On 1910 to 1948, there was a 25% divorce rate, and the current age and the divorce rate of the Philippines is 50%. I sorry, Philippines. United States is 50%. And inarguing dito that the stability of the nation couldn't last long if if divorce is I don't know divorce is continue to plummet. You know, as divorce continues to plummet, right? The stability of the nation is endangered because what? Because of the family. The family is the smallest unit of the society. So if this unit is functionally destroyed, it could affect a lot of things. So yeah, parang ano siya, para siyang domino, right? It starts from a small domino to the largest domino. It could affect everything. Now, here, sabi niya dito na yung divorce is really destructive when it comes to the family. Yung sociology ng marriage is very important. Peter Sorokin is a Russian American researcher. He's also a Christian, by the way. So sabi niya that divorce must be prohibited because if divorce is allowed, especially no fault divorce, right? The divorce where you just I don't feel happy anymore. Again, it stems back down philosophically into the idea of liberalism that if you don't feel happy, let it go. If you feel happy, do whatever you want. So it relies on your individual happiness. It's so individualistic. That's why a lot of people right now are so narcissistic. You know, they always talk about it's me, 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 me. It's like just like me and my feelings and my welfare, all of it, right? It's not about they have forgotten the idea of marriage that it's about selfless love, it's sacrifice, it's enduring, it's long suffering. It's like how Christ, loved us like the church, and like love the church, us the church. So moving on, communism, socialism, secularization of the state happened. French Revolution, I've told about it, and the lies about history. The Crusade and the Spanish Inquisition. Have you ever figured out bakit always the Crusade was the only thing that was criticized? In most by most historians, most secular historians, criticize Crusades as if it's an oppression of Christianity to other religions. What they don't understand is that Crusades never happened. It didn't happen because the Pope saw that um, Jerusalem was the place where Jesus died. And now let's take that place. We need that place. No, what happened there? Way beyond. It goes way beyond back to 700 AD, the Arabian conquest, up until to Andalusia. No, not really. Above Andalusia, Spain, it almost reaches France. If not for the French Catholic crusaders, they would not have repelled, and there would have been no Reconquista, where Spain would be Muslim majority today. They repelled the Muslims. The Muslims have been doing this, Barbary Muslims. They have enslaved white people. Wow, guess what? White people are also enslaved. Yes, they were enslaved too. Barbary pirates, Barbary Muslims, they have enslaved white people. If you have, if you know the how the U.S. Navy was formed, is because of that. That's how the Marines were formed, because they want to save American citizens from the hands of the Barbary pirates, who are majority Muslims who are selling them to Arabs. So the Berbers. Thank you, bro. So the Berbers, right? Going back to that point, the Berbers, they attack, they pillage ports all throughout southern Europe and Mediterranean, and the Pope was tired of it, right? Because the whole of Middle East before were Christians. They were all Christians, right? If Arabia, for the most part, were pagan, and then there came this guy under the influence of Satan named Muhammad. He literally said, "Hey, look, we're going to spread this new religion because Jesus, who never really talked about me, will, Jesus, who's never really talked about me, said that I will come. So, follow me and I'll kill people. So that's what he did. And now you basically got the whole of the Middle East to turn into Muslims. Like, for example, Lebanon in 1900s were a majority Christian population. They let Muslims in. Guess what happened? Now they're majority Muslims. Right. So, as if that's telling you not to, let these people in. Okay, so one more is Weimar, Germany. Very famous. 1921, the first trans clinic for kids. Yes. Again, this history is cyclical. It already happened before. If you think that the trans clinic for kids is just happening at this current age, no, it happened on 1921 before even Hitler came into power, right? That happened in 1921, Weimar, Germany. Weimar, Germany, that time was quoted as the flesh capital of the world, and not really a flesh capital. It's the land of sin. It's a sin city, literally. It's a sin city because everything is allowed: prostitution, transgenderism, and all types of other things that are unnatural are done there. And guess what? Who controls majority of these governmental organizations at the time before? It were Jews, right? For example, Magnus Hirschfeld was a Jew. He was the first transsexual, transvestite child doctor who have done quite a couple of surgeries to children. And then he was kicked out. Actually, he was kicked out. He was expelled out of Germany when Hitler came and rose to power. So yeah. Now let's talk about. Sige, bro. Next mo. Go on. Yeah. So let's talk about this. Karl Popper open. Ay, sige, bro. Dun tayo sa card. Yeah. Let's talk about this. Karl Popper, Open Society and Its Enemies, and the Authoritarian Personality by Theodore Adorno. I recommend you to also read these books. Yeah, ito yung mga sources ko. I'm telling you right now. Read this book. So let me explain this to you. So basically, si Karl Popper, the Open Society and Its Enemies, simply explained by this. They are against traditionalism. Both of these books are against traditionalism, but the other is way more perverse. For example, the authoritarian personality of Theodore Adorno, which is one of the great thinkers of Frankfurt School in Germany, and the creators of critical theory, was also a Jew, says that if your child, has adherence to tradition, adherence to religion, adherence to a certain authority that is divine and immaterial, something that is cannot be perverse, that kid is prone to authoritarianism, particularly fascism. Yeah. So if your kid is normal, it means that your kid is a fascist. No wonder why they call you a fascist right now. Because fascism was made to counter communism, which is authoritarian left wing. Fascism is basically authoritarian left wing. We're going to talk about that later in a political horseshoe. I'm going to explain it to you quite simply so maintindihan natin lahat. So here, Karl Popper naman argued that that liberalism must be kept, that we must be against, and we must understand that society is more like in the function how Marx thought it to be. Though he critiqued Marx, right? However, he agreed with his disposition, but he only critiqued Marx on economic materialism, and then never critiqued Marx on all of its philosophical standpoint. He agreed with Marx, and it followed with Michael J. Foucault, which is a postmodern thinker in our current age. Karl Popper, was very much against anything that talks about tradition, religion, and anything that conforms people to act in a certain way. So he's against that. So now, moving on tayo sa History, Frankfurt School, and Critical Theory, right? Dito tayo sa History, Frankfurt School, and Critical Theory. So ano ba ang Frankfurt School? Frankfurt School was school created in Germany. It's basically called a Marx school. It's made because they want to spread the idea of Marxism, of socialism. And the critical theory, right? This is a theory that was created by a couple of thinkers. Next mo, bro. Critical theory. Ayan, doon tayo sa critical theory. Yep, before tayo mag-political horseshoe. Yeah, ito yung back bro. Yan. Yan. What in the world? Okay. Yan. Dito, sabi dito, ito yung mga first generation of political theorists, all right? Sila Adorno, si Horkheimer, si Benjamin, si Marcuse, which is one of the most greatest influencers when it comes to the modern, like yung creation, the modern Ivy Leagues. By the way, these people have a lot of interconnections with modern Ivy Leagues, and now you would not wonder why is it that majority of our colleges are so woke and leftist. Is because it starts from here. It's the theory. The critical theory is a theory perversion, right? Anything that averts, right? It talks about the traditional philosophy is a cover for systemic oppression and aesthetic theory. That's why they hate beauty and they hate art and they hate architecture, is because art is a reality which could lead to expression. How? What in the world? If you think of that, but yeah, that's how they view it. And you can find the deepest connections of this into the Talmud. Talmud was a modern Jewish book that was used by the Jews today, and they have a lot of things to say about Jesus, Christians, and the things that they are doing to Christian babies when they were expelled by the Romans in 70 AD and they migrated to the north and they settled with pagans and with Christians, with so-called Christians of today. What do they do in blood libel? They drain the blood of the baby by poking it. Yeah. And they do usury. That's the reason why they got kicked out of 109 countries, because they have more power over the king. For example, Christians don't do when it comes to economic Christianity, Christians walang interest yung pangungutang, right? When you borrow money, you return the same amount of money. Now, how did the word interest, interest in borrowing money stemmed from? Where was it created? It was created by the Jews by using usury. They would put interest rates on it. Yeah, they would put interest rates on it. So they put interest rates on it, and then what happens? Of course, you got rich kasi extra yung pera mo eh. So when I make you borrow 50 pesos, right, and you return to me 100 because I probably would have like a half. So let's say I get 100. If I made people borrow a small amount of money and they have interest rates, I will get rich. And then what happens is that they get stronger than the king. That's why Rothschild says here that basically if you have the control over money, you don't have to care who leads the government. Yeah, that's why I recommend you earlier yung how central banking was formed, yung libro ni Dr. Goodman. I think it's a doctor. It's a Mr. Goodman lang. I saw it called Mr. Goodman about central banking, how central banking was created and the enslavement of mankind. I recommend that book. You would love to read that book, seriously. And you would now understand why society is filled with a lot of garbage. Okay, so marami pa to. I really wanted to go more. Let's do more. Okay, let's talk about Gregory Lukács. Lukács he has a study. I was reading his study a couple of minutes ago. Lukács was practically Jewish philosophers, one of the greatest thinkers of Frankfurt School of Theory. He argues here that basically subjection to authority is subjection to monarchy pala. Yeah, monarchy. Because a monarchy is absolute at that time. There's two types of monarchy, absolute monarchy and forgot the other one. Sorry. My teachers are gonna kill me if they saw this. All right. Yeah, but Gregory Lukács was this Jewish guy, right? He was very much against order and beauty. He thinks that the people who subjects themselves into order and beauty were people who are feeble in mind. And this stems down still with this aesthetic theory. They have this aesthetic theory. Okay, so now madali na natin to. So let's go with the explain political horseshoe and political compass. Dun tayo sa dalawa na yan. I'm gonna make it short to you, and you can literally evangelize people with this. I'm not kidding. I'm serious with this. When I talk to a liberal and a person who doesn't agree with me, especially in terms of politics. And how do you stem it down to God alone? Is that you use this. Let's go. I will teach you. All right, next slide, bro. Okay. So this is what I usually use typically, pero hindi ito yung nasa phone ko when I use it. So, makikita mo dito, this is so I don't know, tama ba to? I don't think this is the right one, but ito na yung nilagay ko so that I can explain much more clearly. So, makikita mo dito, political horseshoe from left to right. Okay? So, dalawa yan. Right? So, yung dulo nun, it's authoritarian. Right? Yung gitna, it's centrism. Okay? Yan. Pagka na siya. So, para natin ma-explain you much more clearly, everything in the left, we're bad. Simply. Okay? Everything in the right, we're good. Wow, napaka-biased. Well, it's the reality. Let's look into it so that you can see. Okay. Mali ito, by the way, kasi corporatism is more like on the center left. Pero, never mind. So here, makikita mo dito, National Socialism, Stalinism, Communism, Libertarian Socialism. Everything on the left is more, what do you say it? More liberal because they are, what? They are leftists. They're leftist in nature. They think in relatives, okay? Left is subjective, right is objective. Now, here's makikita mo yung difference. I mali ako na nalagay. I'm so sorry. I'm so mistaken when it comes to this. I wish I have a blackboard right now so para mas madali ko siyang ma-explain.
Excuse me, bro. Actually, yung format mo is tama.
Format ba tama? Okay, tama ba? Kasi may
may ganito din ako sa federal.
Yeah, I was using another one though. There was this other one. There was this other thingy, right? So I wanted to go for it. Let's go. So here, typically I explain it so simply. Ganito lang siya. Yung sa ano dulo, di ba? Ano siya? It stems out parang minsan nga mag-interconnect yan. Sabi nila nag-interconnect daw yan. So it's more like a cyclical theory, but it wasn't. It really doesn't interconnect. Alam mo kung bakit? Because the other one is authoritarian right. Authoritarian rights wants to preserve good. If you have understand Julius Evola, which I recommend you to as well, read Julius Evola's works about postmodernism and the modern right. I love his books. My favorite philosophers of all time is Julius Evola, and he has a really great understanding about things. And though he's not a Christian, which is very sad, he relates it to religion very much. That's the reason why lahat na nasa right wing, right? Lahat na nasa right wing are more likely to be religious than those that are in the left wing, because left wing are more secular in nature, and they want it to be more subjective. What means to be subjective? That humans are their own power and good. But here on right wing, you can see you will put Christians there as well, because all Christians are right wing. Kaya kapag nakita kayo ng Christian na left wing, you would wonder, why are you left wing, right? Because the Bible alone is very right wing. It's the truest right wing ever, right? It's so true. It's so right wing. Na when you understand that, right? Yung center ng core ng philosophy ng right winger is that it's for beauty, it's for good, right? And then here you come with left wingers and with Marxist thinkers and socialist and communist thinkers that they want to perverse everything and they want it to be subversive. Tingnan niyo yung mga, for example, architecture. Ang architecture sa West is left wing din. Okay, I'm not saying right wing yon. Left wing din yon because it's overtly materialistic. Now, sa right wing, sa left wing din, nandun yung overtly how do you say this? Overtly void. Nakita mo yung mga buildings ng communist, di ba? In Russia, sobrang parang patay na kaluluwa, parang mga nakatira yung mga multo, mga tenants like that, because it's lost, right? And I can also see that in the Philippines when it comes to our mga tenements. The reason why those tenements were lack of art and culture is because they're made to really just fit people in. Okay? Why? Bakit ganon? Because in a socialist society, you want to pacify people. Yeah, you want to pacify people. In a nationalist society, a traditional society, you want the people to be independent from the government. But if you want the people to not be independent and rely on the government, you would make them this cheap ass things, because you just like give it. You know, it's more cheap, it's more easy. You don't have to art and style it. But that's not the reality of life. Man would want to find beauty because God is beauty. We're looking for a beauty in this world which we will never find, but only through Jesus Christ alone. Yung beauty na yon is so lost, right? And we're looking for it in many different ways. That's why we want to pursue a lot of conservatism. A lot of consumerism. Sorry, what am I saying? Consumerism. A lot of consumerism, because consumerism numbs you by giving you this semi-beautiful things. That's why they say na, sabi nga ni J.C. Ryle, si Jerry Bridges pala, that sin has to put makeup in order for it to be beautiful, right? And sin would never be beautiful because because it's repulsive. It's against the contrary of God. So it will trick the man to think that it's beauty. So this architecture, right? Sa architecture, makikita mo yun, that when it's more religious, it's more beautiful. Yes, that's why churches, for example, in Germany, the Gothic church, a very large Gothic church, really beautiful. It took 632 years to make, right? And it only took like a couple of years to make those buildings that are hollow and like a concrete block. Those are brutalist architectures against traditionalist architectures of the West. It's not only seen in architecture, but it's also seen in medicine or academia. So medicine, so leftists, they would want to feed you things that would pacify your tongue, make it more happy. Parang, oh my God, wow, it's so yummy. It's so not knowing that they put chemicals on it. For example, if you fry your chicken on vegetable oils, where do you get the oils in the vegetables? There's no oil in vegetables, especially seeds. That's why seed oils have to have some. I forgot the chemical that was put in it. It was also put in gasolines. The original fat came from butter, ghee, avocado. Avocado is a fruit and it's fatty, so avocado is healthy. Olives, right? Those are healthy oils, so that they will feed you garbage, right? To pacify you, consume, right? Traditionalist ones, it's just simple. It's so simple, right? You eat the freshest food that you have. Okay, I don't want to go into that anymore. Moving on. I'm done with that. I'm so done. All right, I'm moving on because I would have to go to my lola. So yeah, moving on. Sa political compass naman tayo, para mas madali ko ma-explain. So, political compass, dalawa yon. Economic. Can you next it, please? Thank you. Pwede po bang pa-next? Salamat po. Yan. So, authoritarian, di ba? It's economic yung pa-slide, economic. Yung patayo is authoritarian and libertarian. So, ito, let's go here. So here, makikita mo dito, dito malalagay sa taas, sa color blue, yung fascism. Yung sa baba, makikita mo nakalagay dyan yung conservatism, libertarian right. Why conservatism? Kasi ang conservatism, hindi naman yun talaga totally, it's not forceful, right? You do not exert authority over it. You just want to influence people. Hey, be conservative. Just be conservative because traditional values are cool, man. But the reality is that you have to use power, okay? Because if you do not understand power, the other side will use the power against you, okay? So if you do not use the power, that's really what politics is. Sino una makakuha ng power? So then when I got the power, especially talking about mga party lists, sino mauna nakakuha ng power? They would promote what their agenda is. So ibig sabihin, lahat ng tao, meron silang agenda and they want to promote something. And if you're so pacifistic, but I don't wanna do anything. You just wanna be sorry for the word, cock. I wanna be a cock for you don't even want to vote. You don't even want to participate in politics. You don't even want to participate in government. Those people, once they got in power, they're going to persecute you. And your forefathers died to have this liberty that you have right now. Imagine if this country was never colonized by Spaniards. This country would be like Indonesia, and that's worse. And come to think of it, we're worse than Indonesia, but we will be all Muslims, and that would be way more worse. But we take advantage of that. We take advantage of so many things. We are all sinners, and we take advantage of so many things. Parang, we have the freedom to go to church. We have the freedom to worship God, to worship the only one true God, which is Jesus Christ, and not any other gods. but we take advantage of that. We think that these things are these things are futile. We don't even care. I'm as guilty as this. Sometimes I do not attend the church, and this is so important to understand power because God is sovereign at all things, and God is the outmost authoritarian power, right? So here, pag ginamit naman ng left, kaya pansin mo, di ba, kanina I compared fascism with communism because, again, authoritarian right and authoritarian left. So authoritarian right, they're very much likely against everything that is everything subversive and against the nature and the creation of order, and left was pro for it, so they will push it. So push nila yon. Pag sino makakuha ng power. So dito naman sa dalawa na to, makikita natin yung democratic. When it comes to libertarian, it's more likely democratic. It's an exchange of ideas, change of fields. That's why we debate people about certain things, about abortion, divorce, about postmodern and modern issues and contemporary issues. And dito natin makikita yan. And you can literally impact people by telling them about the reality of all these things. For example, if you talk about communism, socialism, secularization of the state, if you literally made them understood what that means and how that affected us, those people will believe you. But listen to this: political Christianity is not Christianity. Okay, Christianity is just Christianity. You don't have to have politics on it. Okay, but you have to understand politics because you're a Christian and you are under a God, and you're also doing polity inside your church. Okay, I do not agree with people who say that there must be Christian politics. No, Christianity is true because it's Christianity. It wasn't true because you don't have to add some studies. You have to add some things on it. No, the gospel itself is sufficient, inerrant, and it stands alone on its own feet. You don't have to add so many. You don't need to do that things. But what happens is that it just further expounds the truth by doing these things, by researching, by understanding science properly, and not in the science that we know of it, but the science that is science truly, not the science that we think. Science we do by using studies and understanding of philosophy. We always come and we always will come to God. That's how we become a Christian, by the way. I converted because I learned about all of these things as I grow older in age, and I have observed that everything in this world is so futile. And then if this is the case, then I must just well kill myself. But something that gave me hope is that the life that we have here doesn't end here. We have an eternal life to come that is with Jesus Christ. So that and that amount of hope is so unfound in the leftist sphere. They don't have hope. Majority of them are nihilists. Yeah, they want to live their life with all their fullness. They want to live their life for pleasure. They want to live their life for this and that and those because they view life nihilistically. There's nothing in this life, so might as well enjoy all of it. But us, we view this life eternally. We view this life as passing. We view this life as futile. We view this life as something that doesn't last forever. So we must focus on the truth, which is on Christ alone. We find our home. And here, ito na. Here, you could share that to people and make them understand about certain things. Sorry kung hindi ko na ano sa inyo. I'm very distracted by thinking about my lola right now. But it's fine. That's how it is. I wish I could be better right now, but I'm sorry if I wasn't. So let's move on to the next topic. So, ito naman. Let's next na slide na, bro. Yan. Why are Christian majority nations are prone to liberal degeneration? That is a very very good question to ask, right? Kasi tatanungin mo, bakit yung mga Muslim? Bakit they don't have this issue? Why do Muslims don't have this issue? Simple, because the lack of understanding of power. You are so afraid to make God the sovereign ruler that you think that there must be a separate government for man and God. Same. Like, sorry, post me lang ako eh. So, sorry that now you know why, right? But the reason that the reason for that is because separation of the church and the state. You separate the church from the state, so the church has no say on the state. Actually, we're more benevolent we have the benevolent separation, not, but more like this thing that we have over here, right? Separation of the church and the state is like the church should have no say on what the state would do, and the state would have no say what the church would do. But in reality, the polity never really stemmed from the state alone. It come from the church. They imitated it. That's why majority of sabi nga ni Tocqueville, all states must be religious, right? You have to read also Tocqueville. Tocqueville is a great French philosopher. Sabi niya that nations need a certain God to stand. And secular nations and Christian nations are prone to secularization because, again, not only that we have let these people infiltrate our governments, our system of thinking, our churches were infiltrated as well. Kala natin our churches are safe. No, our churches are not safe. You see gay pastors, you see gay people performing inside the church. What in the world is that? Right? Ano lang yan eh. Like if you let it control you, it will control you. It's a disease, and you do not kill disease by putting Band-Aid on it. You kill a disease by killing it. Kill it, right? Say you kill sin, kill it. I'm not saying kill it literally. I mean kill it this way. Take it out in the institutions. Vanish it, right? Do not let it partake. That's the reason why these people were rejected by 109 countries in the first place, is because they're doing the very same thing they're doing right now, but now it's way more subtle, right? We have a globalist by the way, globalism is a massive scam and a massive globalist organization that forces us to have this one cohesive thought. And that's what the Frankfurt School talk about, that they during at the time of the Hungarian war, before the First World War, they want people to turn away from their traditional monarchic Christian beliefs. But nung nagkaroon ng First World War, hindi nagising yung tao about their class consciousness, nagising sila on their nationalistic pride. Anong ginawa ng Frankfurt School? Now they had the idea that in order for you to influence these people, you must start young. Yeah, you must start young. And now, yung university is a place for deconstruction of basic knowledge. Tika ma, when you're grade 5, your teachers tell you that there's only two sex, man and a woman, right? And now there's this thing called intersex, which is a further explanation of truth. But intersex people were just basically an outliers. They're not normal people. All right, it's not like intersex should be a part of. But there's only two sex. Intersex is genetic deformity. Yeah, that's what you call it. Or like for example, this deconstruction of basic knowledge, the knowledge that we have at we were young, na being taught to us in traditional Catholic society that we live in right now in the Philippines. Though kahit secular pa yun, di ba, maka-Diyos nga eh. Maka-Diyos, maka-tao, maka-bayan, maka-bansa, basta, yakalimutan ko isa. But yeah, yung basic deconstruction of knowledge, it comes in university because there's this thing called free thought, and there's this always challenging, there's this always fascination with being a contrarian. You have to be contrary with what's normal, right? For example, tinuturo sa atin while we were young that there's only that a man will never be a woman. But now, as you go into universities, you literally could pretend to be a woman and dress like a woman. Yeah, you could. I've seen in my school many times, lalaki to, nagsusuot siya ng babaeng uniform, bibili siya sa office na bilihan ng uniform namin, and ang bibili niya is yung pambabae, and people wouldn't even comment on it. It became normalized. We are so desensitized to this, and that's why it's so prevalent in our society. We have let them overtake us. That's why we lose. So, it's so asinine to think that university should be a thought for furthering up the knowledge that you have in your high school and your elementary years, but rather it's a deconstruction of it, and for you to act a certain way. Right? That no wonder, even though we live in a Catholic country, even in Catholic universities, there's things like hookups. Why would you have a hookup? I thought you're Catholic, right? You're attending a mass and you're doing things that are unholy against God. And this is just so simple because we have let them infiltrated us. We have let them infiltrated us and destroy us. And that's why we have to understand how power works. If we do not understand how power works, we're cooked. We're cooked. Gen Z term, we are absolutely cooked. So What is the Christian response? Now, let's go with here. This is so important. Ano ngayon yung Christian response natin? Ano yung magiging response natin as people of God? You know? Number one is we have to be involved in politics. You know, we have to be involved in government. Particularly to all the young men here, you gotta understand how to be articulate and be dangerous, man. By being articulate, you will be absolutely be dangerous. I'm hated by my whole class on my first semester and my first year at college because I was always the contrarian whenever they recite stuff. You know, when some of my classmates would say they would love to explore their bodies because we were being asked by teachers on it, I always say to them, you are worth more than your flesh. You know, and it will have an impact on you as you grow older, because a lot of young people do not think forward in their future but on the day that they're just living right now. So like, bata pa ako eh, so marami pa akong magagawa. And that's how we do, by the way, with our health as well. No, kapag bata ka pa, inaabuso mo yung katawan mo. Tapos pagtanda mo, you're gonna reap and sow what you did. So that's so similarly with how the way we view things. When we were young, we want to waste our life with so much pleasure and happiness and pain. But God didn't call us for a life of pleasure. God called us for a life of meaning. Right? So if anyone who wants to lose his life, but if anyone who will lose his life for my sake will gain it, but everyone who gains his life will lose it, right? And take up your cross every single day. And the meaning of the word cross is suffering, right? It's crucifixion. Yun yung punishment eh. Yun yung crucifix eh. So crucifixion is a suffering, it's a punishment. It's not to say na parang you're stoic, right? Na parang, you just avoid pleasure. No, you do this because you know that that the things that of this world that it offers you are so whack. It's not worth it of anything. It's not worth it of any attention. It's not worth it of any good, of any. You would never be satisfied with it. It will only be a temporary satisfaction, and you cannot live in hedonism, for it will corrode your soul one way or another. Kahit Kristiyano ka pa hindi, it will corrode your soul. And I've seen a lot of non-Christian people who have corroded their souls, and then ang nangyari is that they are so, they're so sad that they have done those things to themselves before. And guess what? Regret is always a possible outcome. That's why God is really calling us to be to control our bodies, to discipline ourselves. Importance and involvement ng government, sobrang important yan. Dapat maging participants ng government ang mga Kristiyano. Kasi lagi na tayong sinasabi sa atin ano bang pakialam mo sa abortion? Like, ganun. Like, but you understand that Christians, part din tayo ng government. Butante tayo, nagbabayad tayo ng buwis. So, dapat, meron tayong karapatan makialam sa mga issue ng lipunan. Especially if it's against the contrarian nature of God or the will of God. We must despise it and destroy it at all costs. Because if you don't destroy it and binaby mo yan, kagaya ng kasalanan mo, you're gonna return to the vomit, right? And our society is going to return to that vomit over and over again. Let's say let's say yung Pilipinas, gawin natin conservative and Christian, right? If we do not instill the values that is instated in the Bible, one way or another, babalik din tayo kung saan tayo ngayon right now. We're gonna go back to where we are right now. Because again, this corruption will never end in this other side of heaven until Jesus Christ reigns again. And but it's so important to be involved in the government, to be articulate and to be dangerous, to have the monster inside of you to control. You have to be able to not only be verbally dangerous, but also physically dangerous. Doesn't mean you should hurt people, but it means that you have the capacity to hurt people, but you have the ability to control it. Because if you're weak and you call yourself virtuous, you are not virtuous at all. The reason why you're virtuous is because you're weak, right? You don't want people to confront you. But if you have the capacity to confront people and you really want to confront people and you want to pursue the truth, which we should, you will confront them straight up. So, and you would not be afraid to do it because you live a life of courage. Oh, let me quote you this. Sabi dito, sabi ni John Eldridge, a man's life is meant to be lived from a heart of courage. And that courage comes from knowing you are a son of God. You must have courage. More than nobility is a must that every young Christian man must learn. Lahat ng Christian na batang lalaki of probably of my age or younger than me must learn nobility and how the way they treat people, especially women and their families, in their schools, and their friends, and the way how they look at things so that they would not be tempted. It's that they also muster up courage. Ang daming lalaki that are noble, but they're not courageous. Ang daming lalaking passive, and that's the greatest sin that Adam did on Genesis 3, is that he's so passive that he let Eve took the fruit and be deceived. That's what we're doing right now. Especially a lot of young men are so passive that they let their babaeng classmate na mag-recite ng kung anong kabalbalan, but not saying anything about her. Do not be afraid to be hated by the world, because that's what it means to be a Christian. Being a Christian it's hard, because you really have to stand up for what's right, and despite the world really hates you for it. And importance of voting. Then voting is so important. I said it before. Democracy is basically a psyop. People are just governments are telling you to do this and do that and do those, and they make you vote, and then they legitimize that vote and tell you that it's all fine, right? Parang it's like it's parang tong it's clown circus. Like we're all living in a clown world, like a clown circus that parang okay, do this, vote this, and then pag bumoto ka, and they will find it legitimized, and some of it is even dinaya, which I believe that's what they did to Donald Trump on last election, and I hope not they would not do it to this election. Sana hindi na gawin, but there's a major majority issue with that. But I disagree with democracy. The reason simply because not everyone who has a say needs to say something. Okay? Hindi lahat ng tao may karapatan dapat bumoto, because not every single person has the capacity or ability to vote intellectually. Let me give you an example of this, is that yung gay na meron sa UP, kapag 5 sila, they overrule your one vote. Yeah, we're cooked. Exactly. Right? That's why they cancel your vote. Literally, a gay person who doesn't really think about anything versus a traditional person who really knows a lot about things, if they vote, they cancel each other out. That's how whack democracy is, and then they're going to tell you it's legitimate. So importance of voting despite of democracy is flawed, but you still have to vote. Mas maganda nang magboto ka kaysa maging indifferent ka. Again, we stand against pacifism. We stand against passive. We do not want to be passive. We do not want to be, sorry, not pacifism, passivism. We do not want to be passive. Ayaw natin maging passive. Ayaw natin pabayaan lang to. We must take stand, and we must rule what's right. And Christianity has large impact. By the way, bro, next mo na pala. Sorry, sobrang delayed na ako. Yan. Next. Yan. Sige. And based on the research conducted by the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University, it is estimated that 104 million people who fall under the category of the people of faith, of which 41 million Christians and 32 million attend church regularly, will not cast ballots in this election. That's how many people will not vote. And the effect of that? That could change from 1% to 2%, and literally could win you another 4 years of maybe better government, right? But since people are so passive and they don't want to vote, they think na, wala naman, pare-pares lang naman ng government. Do not be discouraged. At some point in time, you must train your sons and your next grandsons and your lineage. You must train your family. You must make them understand these things, so that at some point in time, there will be someone who will stand up for it, and someone who has really true convictions and will never be maligaw sa kahit ano. So, yeah, that's very important. And Christians must vote. It's so important for Christians to vote, and especially in this election, especially in the upcoming election in 2025. And avoid yung akbayan, anakbayan. Hindi bro, sa US yan, Arizona. So, akbayan, anakbayan, and yung kabataan, i-avoid niyo yung tatlong party list na yan. I'm telling you straight up right now, these party lists were communist. And by the way, nakalimutan ko yung input sa inyo kanina, that yung UP, may post sila doon, yung family, I forgot the name of the family, I should have remembered it, that I shared before, nagawa talaga sila ng Marxist. They were really funded by Marxist thinkers, especially influenced highly by Marcuse, right? And the Frankfurt School of Critical Theory. These people are insane. And they were influenced by the Jewish elite, especially Jews also control Hollywood. That's why makikita mo yung mga nilalabas sa Hollywood are so subversive, because it's all about money and power and ideology. If you have the ideology and you have the power to do it, probably if I'm a billionaire, I would make a movie about Jesus Christ, right? Because I'm a Christian, and it shapes the way how we do things. But then these people, they're against Christ. They hate Jesus. Look at the way how they describe Jesus in Talmud. He is burning in hell with covered in feces. They hate you. They hate your kids. They hated you from the very beginning till the end. And these people of God, that's why I don't have respect for premillennials and dispensationalists, because you people never really understand that the people of God, right? There, I mean, we're gonna go eschatology here right now, but if you understand Hebrew lineage, the people of God, especially from the northern tribe of Israel, they migrated north, and the ones who stayed are from the south. So, yung sa Judah, and that tells a lot about things. I recommend you to just research more about it. But if you would, I would love to message you on it. You can message me later. And kung may mga hindi pa ako na-cover, I'm so sorry. But basically, this is how we should understand politics. And the Protestant case for political conservatism is that we must be conservative, for conservatism is a philosophy that aligns with God, for it conserves nature, good, and righteousness. Right? We must stand against evil, and we must be wait lang. we must be we must be smart when it comes to these things. So lastly, I want to quote you this. Next na bro. Next piece. Thank you po. Yan. I want to quote you Ted Kaczynski. By the way, kung gusto niyo rin to, ang dami ko nang recommend sa inyo tonight, if you can remember some of them, but one of this is Ted Kaczynski. He made a great book, again, about Unabomber, Unabomber, right? It's against about postmodernism again as well. It's against about consumerism in a modern society. So sabi ni Ted Kaczynski dito, the real task is to spread hopelessness where there is no hope, there is no serious resistance. We must resist against this world, and we just cannot let it happen and go over and over again, because we find it profitable for us to stay as, because the idea of being a Christian is so flawed, right? The idea of being a Christian is that you must be a pacifist, you must be kind, and I know being kind, by the way, is a virtue, but it doesn't mean that you don't have the capacity to hurt people. You don't have the capacity to take control of power, and that's a must. And that's a must, I believe, for every Christian, that they must understand power, so that we can partake and control power as well in a governmental scale. So again, yun yung main conclusion ko dito. But the reason why I gave you so much information, I may have overloaded your brains if with so much of it na hindi ko pa nga covered. I think I did not perform the best of my will tonight. Na I wish I could have done better, but the reason why I shared you all of these informations is because that these things are the precursors of why it happens right now, right? Bakit nangyayari itong mga bagay na to right now? The reason why these things are happening to us right now, because it stemmed from a long series of historical issues, okay? So that you must have to understand na itong bagay na to, right? Itong understanding of history is a very important thing that we must learn, right? Because his history cannot be separated from our theology, same with our politics and our philosophy, right? So itong understanding of the cyclical nature of history is that certain things will repeat if you do not stop. And I gave you so much examples today. Weimar Germany, Yugoslavia, and one of the most important thing, Roman Empire. And you know this, Roman Empire is probably one of the most famous quoted type of famous, very famous na yung sinasabi na history is repeating itself. Yeah, because history always repeats itself naman talaga, right? That's why J.D. Unwin made it a great conclusion, not only to be aware of our sexual nature and sexual culture, but also be aware, for he believes, one of his great theses in his book, that he believes that there is much more of an effect than solely sexual. Parang hindi lang yun stop there. It just doesn't stop there. It just doesn't end on any some type of place. It goes way beyond more than that. And I think also in philosophical terms, tayo, and political terms, tayo as Christians, knowing these things would make us smart about this. And then you would not be surprised, syempre. Hindi ka na magugulat na parang, wala, bakit nangyayari to? Bakit yung mga bata, bakit ginagato nila yung mga bata? Well, because they hate nature, they hate God, okay? And they want to play God. Yun lang yun. Pero if you want to look at history, this is how they do it. Spanish Inquisition, that's the reason why the Spanish Inquisition, by the way, they expelled these people out. You know, I know the Spanish Inquisition has a lot of history when it comes to Protestantism, and I disagree with them on that. But I agree with them on one particular term is by kicking the people who control the power, like this out. Yung mga ganto kasamang power, and they kick them out, especially yung mga other religions, not because they hate other religions, but because those other religions are harmful for their society. Okay. So yeah, pinapapunta na ako ng hospital. So I gotta go, man. You have any questions to ask me? You can ask me. Thank you.
I think we got no questions here. Wala akong nabasa kahit isa. Pero that's a nice presentation, bro. Kasi ano siya, very eye-opening. Tapos ang dami talagang napaka-diverse. Though if you think na medyo sabog or marami kalat-kalat parang ganon. Pero nakita ko na essential siya yung mga sinasabi mo, yung ganon. Tapos parang historically talaga is nahimay talaga siya. So yan, sige, let's entertain the question ni sino ba yan? Kung sino man yan. Sige, open ka ng mic.
Hello, good evening. This is Enrique, the chairman of the Federalist Party. So my question is, as you can see naman sa chat box, medyo pagka-funny kasi it's relate on the ideology, yung sa professor ba yun? Kasi dati, during my political science days, psychology days, the professor tried to ano ba yan, yung i-hypnotize or i-seduce para lang cover up or goal niya yung agenda sa ideology. But luckily, hindi ako na-attempt or hindi ako na-captured sa kanyang seductive way sa ideology na pigilan ko. Here, my question is how to balance between the what we call between the communism and the capitalism, or the other word of capitalism is consumerism.
So your question, bro, is how do we differentiate the two?
Paano sila maging cooperative silang dalawa when it comes
Okay.
of
So
religion
actually,
and government?
I think that ideologically, yung dalawa na yun, specifically by their terminology, no, they don't. They don't really pero they will conceive in what we call as socialism. Doon sila magtatagpo. It will become socialism na parang you are allowed to do these things, but it's all under the state control. So parang for example, alright, na itong bagay na to, or maybe even democratic socialism. You could say democratic socialism is that you can have and consume things. You would say that, or paano ba? How do you say this? Parang it's a capitalistic society, but however, it has some communistic ideas, right? And I think it meets certainly on one thing: perversion. Ayun lang, perversion, because it perverts everything. Na parang so much consumerism perverts your whole entire society, your entire being, di ba? Na parang you're not so content, and that's sabi nga ni Thomas Watson sa book niya, Divine Art of Contentment, that humans have this. We have no contentment. Even C.S. Lewis says na parang we are looking for a happiness in this world that we cannot find, because makakita lang tayo ng bag, makita lang tayo ng makita tayo mas pogi sa atin, diba? Even in the Pilipinas, we want to change a lot of our appearances, yeah, and we want to do these things because we find it, great. Na it makes us happy. It makes us fulfilling. I think it goes with that perversion and hedonism. And then doon naman sa communism, its connection with capitalism is again yung term na perversion, na parang ito naman hindi man sobrang strict, but sobrang mapang-ape, right? Mapang-ape in a sense that you don't want people to have their own food. For example, they cannot buy any food other than what you give to them. Right? For example, North Korea, ganun, right? North Korea is much more known as a communist society, but I think it's deeper than communism. Sobrang authoritarian, totalitarian pala sila. Totalitarian kasi authoritarian is that you have authority. Okay? So huwag kayong matakot sa word na authoritarian. Authoritarian is that you have authority and you control certain things. And that's okay. That's okay. Okay? Totalitarian is like you control everything. Okay? And that's not okay because um sobrang unbalanced ng power. Hindi mo alam. Hindi mo alam yung kung ano mapupunta yon. Sobrang kaya mahirap yung one man republic. I always tell myself this, maganda yung one man republic, but it's so hard because you do not know the man, right? Yung man na yon, pwede mag-switch yung utak noon and it would just go absolutely haywire and you're done for. But that man could follow God and you will be great. And naging ganun yung issue ng Roman Empire because may mga mabubuting emperor, may mga samang emperor. So, like, we cannot rely too much on a one-man republic, and I would argue as well that parang it's more like an eldership. Well, yeah, because I'm a presby, parang an eldership that there is other people that contradict certain beliefs. And I think philosophically, sobrang important din nun because kung hindi naman countered, kasi sometimes we do wish talaga na it's just all one unity. But there's no man that is perfect, so I think it's more important to be countered. Kasi kung papayag ako na absolute authority, kung si Jesus yung namumuno sa atin lahat. Pag tao, I'm not so sure, I'm not so happy about it. I wish there would be a way more nicer way of importing the government. May kaibigan akong anarchist. He said na gusto nila yung gawin yung anarchy. And sabi ko sa kanila, anarchy, communism, and everything, they just want to create a dystopia. They want to create a system, a government that they think that would be perfect. But there's no perfect government. There will never be. And as long as we live in this world, there will never be. The only perfect government, so far as I can see biblically, is monarchy, and that's the reigning of Jesus Christ. So that's the only way it works. And ayun, it connects in a way yung communism na yan and then yung capitalism na yan and perversion, both extremes. Both consuming, sobrang consuming and then lack of consuming kasi gugutumin ka talaga nila. So, yeah. By the way, Holodomor massacre, if what I mean by that, gugutumin ka nila. They massacred Christians in Ukraine. Holodomor. It happened before na yung mga Orthodox Christians na farmer, they massacred them because ayaw nilang ibigay yung wheat nila na na-harvest nila because sobrang totalitarian nung state ni Stalin na gusto niyang kunin. Tingnan mo, this is how stupid this thing is. Gusto niyang kunin yung wheat and then i-distribute niya yon nang walang bayad. Yung bayad na mapupunta sa state. So, forcefully distribution. Di walang naiiwan sa mga Ukrainian farmers. So, nangyari sa kanila, they died. They starved. You know, ito pa, nangyari pa yan sa alright. Okay, I think, sino ba yung sa South and Latin America, na parang yung sino ba yung ruler doon, na he made that the wages of a taxi driver, sabi to ni Thomas Sowell, that parang so linear, like equality of opportunity versus equality of opportunity, equality of outcome, parang ganun, that yung person na doctor has the same amount of salary as a tricycle driver, so why would you be a doctor? I think that's it. I'm sorry if I'm mistaken in that. Mali na yan. Yeah. All right. Sige bro. Question? Go on.
Parang may nabasa pa akong another question. Sige po, you can open your mic, tas like ng question na lang.
Based sa na-observe ko sa question ni Sir Ken, na-feel ko yung niya, yung spirit of yung sa politics when it comes to politics, but I'm not too close with the religious thing, but more on politics thing. My suggestion is nice to have a council of various of let's say beliefs or different kinds of political movement like conservatism, socialism, federalism, liberalism, etc., so that we can talk about how to fix not just only in our country but in outside of the Philippines, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I totally respect that. Do you have any other questions pa? Ano oras na? Is there any other questions from the viewers?
I think sabi ni Limuel dito, is there any middle ground or nuance between free market capitalism and communism?
Sorry? Ito.
Yeah.
Which political, religious commentator, influencer would you suggest for anyone who is new to this journey of truth? Suggestion ko, I think politically would be my friend, John Doyle. We do have this kind of similar speaking style. Si John Doyle, I like him. Si ano din, ay nasagot na ba yan? Ay, okay. Pero yun nga, recommend ko si John Doyle, What If Altist, okay? Si Ryan Chapman, if gusto mo ng unbiased and very neutral stance into explaining political ideologies, yes, please go with that. Magaling yung lalaki na yan. Si What If Altist is a very good one. History, si Monsieur Z, right? These were very underrated people. Sa ano naman, sa theology naman, syempre, Doug Wilson, I love him. I love this guy, Doug Wilson. And I also like, sino ba to? Forgot the name of him. I bet, but mostly post-millennials. Jeff Durbin as well. Jeff Durbin, I like the Jeff Durbin. Post-mills. Yes. Ito naman, is there a middle ground or nuance between free market capitalism and communism? Yeah, I think no. Kasi pag you define those two terms, parang ano yung communism, the state wants to control it eh. Yung all of the market. Ang free market naman is like everything is fine. Yeah, I think I need to. Yep. So yeah, go on, guys. You can ask me. I'm doing ano. By the way, if you want to have this paper, I will send it to you, guys, so that you can look at it. What I have wrote. And I also would love to send you the references that for the factual statements I made. Sige. I will share it to you. Sige lang, go on. Any other questions? Any other comments? Comments na lang. Any other comments, questions? Yes. Your study. Sure. So I didn't for formal. I'm thinking about my lola all the time. I'm so sorry for kasi I wish I could have. I wanted to open up more on critical theory. I just didn't get the opportunity because I was very my mind is so
Kent, pwede ko ba i-share yung Canva link ng presentation mo sa kanila?
Sige, sure on, go on.
Sige. Para may copy rin sila.
Yeah, and I recommend maybe unrelated. I have a question. My question: how can you stand up? Wait lang, saglit lang. How can you stand up with your viewpoints as politically subject of gender equality without using the Bible book? By using science, argument of authority. I think when it comes to this, you always have to use argument of authority, and I use this by simply showing up the facts. And then when you show up the facts, I say these people wouldn't believe in the Bible. They won't think. Why not? Yes. Okay, so yeah, guys, I'm so sorry. Ayun nga, you could stand up on what's right by being courageous. And huwag ka matakot kasi it's like about Robert Greene na parang neither ways people will hate you or love you if they will somebody's gonna get offended, and either way. So anyhow. Sorry guys.
That's fine, bro. I think, ayan na nga. Sige, Kent. I think we need to let you go na. Yun na nga. I believe na ano po, kailangan po natin pa ng more pa na lessons with Kent in the future. And, ayan. One day, invite ka namin pa, tsaka yung mga group mo, yung Archon, yan. Sinend namin yung link
Yes.
kanina.
Yes,
And,
next year, I'm hoping si Callum yung magsalita, yung friend ko na Welsh. Mahihain yun eh. Pero sabi ko sa kanya, I want him to speak so that, magaling din kasi. He's very smart. And sabi ko sa kanya, go on. I want to lead. Yeah. Baka mas magaling pa sa akin yun kasi he's way more